Lesson number 12, the 1400 tick chart and channels. In lesson 12, you will learn how to trade using the 1400 tick charts and using the channel trend lines for high probability trade setups. Okay, so to get to the 1400 tick chart on your platform, what you'll need to do is come up here, okay, and chances are it'll look something like this. Come up here, go to Customize List, and then either Add New, okay, or come over to one of your time frames. We'll use this one. Edit, change it to Tick Chart, 5 days, and then just type in 1400 manually. Press Select, Apply, and then OK. Then you'll need to come back over here and select the 5-day 1400 tick chart. Now, the one thing that I do use with this is the 200 moving average exponential. Okay, let me take off the first hour fibs. Okay, so this is a way the chart should look like, and I left the RSI on here on purpose because I want to show you how you could look for divergence that we spoke about earlier on the 1400 tick chart. This is going to be very similar to a 5-minute chart, okay, time frame. But one of the things, the reason I like this chart is because it respects the 200 very well. Okay, when it actually is bullish, it'll bounce off the 200. And when it's bearish, it'll actually break through and use it as a resistance, okay? So it's a very good support and resistance level exponential moving average, the 200, on this time frame, okay? Also, if you look, here's a great example, okay, of divergence. Okay, so as price is rising, right, you actually have a lower RSI starting to form, and it kind of gives you a great trade location to where you could look for very, very good trade location to enter a short position. You kind of had divergence right here, okay, and you'll start to see it all the time, okay, to where your eyes will just start to be trained on looking for divergence, but you'll see very good trade setups using this time frame. So you could have seen it here, right? So you actually have price going lower with the RSI, so as we're making new lows, potentially look to be a buyer, and you could have picked up 4 or 5 S&P points. So that's one way I like to use this, okay? I also like to use it as support and resistance on the very first touch, kind of like what we did in the previous lesson with the 2200 double moving average line, okay? As price rallies, look to become short the very first touch, okay? But in this lesson, we're going to be doing trend lines, okay? So what you'll want to do is come over here and you'll actually go to the channel, trend channel. What you'll do is you'll draw a channel, okay? Right click, edit, and you'll want to, these are all the settings that I have for my channel, right? Where it's red, the length of it to show up or down. But what this does, okay, is this will actually draw a very clean channel, okay? So as price is failing, all you want to do is touch from one high to the other high and then extend it, and then you kind of want to look for the downside, right? So right here, let's say this is all we saw right here, right? So now if we come down to this trend line later on, we're going to want to look for a long entry, and there it is, right? It kind of bounces off it and then starts to rally. Well, if we come all the way back up to it, we'd want to look for a potential short on the very first touch. Now, price kind of never got back up there, and eventually broke down. So now what you'll want to do is just go to activate, come down here, and now move this accordingly, correct? This is still intact, okay? But now we potentially might have a trend line from that high to that low, right? Down to here. Okay, so now we actually have a couple different trend lines or levels of support or resistance as we come down. We might bounce off here, but we also know there's another one down here for the channel within the channel. That's what I call it, right? So, but now you might have a channel with the 200 moving average. Both match up. That's called confluence, right? It's a zone where you have multiple things lining up. Kind of think of it as a couple layers of resistance, right? So if price actually rallied right back up here, I'd actually want to look to be a buyer, a seller short the very first touch. It's also this low right here, right? And also this high, right? So we actually have a couple things showing us, hey, if price actually kind of time went by and price rallies up into it, that gives me even a higher probability trade that we're not going to blow through, right? It's going to have, there's more sellers going to be at that level than buyers to push it through. Another way I like to draw these trend lines, and let's remove all these lines real quick, is we're starting to fall, right, on smaller time frames, okay? Maybe look at something like this, okay? It's not a perfect science, but what you're looking for is you're looking for the breakout, okay? Where, okay, prices hit, touch, we break out, and then we pull back to retest the back of that trend line. That's where your entry wants, you want to enter the trade. Because if you're able to enter on the back of the trend line as a retest, well, now what you've done is you know exactly where your stop loss is, because if we actually fall back below this low, you don't want to be in the trade, right? It's a very low risk trade, high reward, because you can enter here and look for a nice runner while you only have a couple points worth of risk. Okay, that's what the E-minis are all about, is looking for those high, low risk, high reward trades. Okay, or maybe even a one-to-one risk reward, but what gives you the edge from it being a 50-50, right? I can enter right now, take 1 point profit, 1 point stop loss. Well, it's a 50-50 odds, right? But if I'm buying at a support level or shorting at a resistance level, okay, now I can risk that same 1 point, but my odds of success actually are about 75 because I'm entering at a very high probability trade where price will reverse and active buyers or sellers will step into the market. Another way to draw these trend lines too is so as you start to see something like this form, go to the low and then to the very first guy and then just look for the highs, right? So now you know if we rally, come up here, look to short, come down here, look to buy, right? And if for some reason we break through, look to short on that retest, okay? But use these entries, try and use them as confluence zones, right? So if price, the 200 moving average line with a previous swing high, if all these things match up, right? And then later on, the high of this trend line is within that little channel, right? From that high to this actually 200, and then the trend line all match up. That should give you a higher probability trade and give you more confidence to actually want to take that trade and know that that trade's going to actually work out in your favor. So we'll do one more example because you could do these even on longer time frames, right? As you could see, look at this. All I did was connect that to that and then move it over to this high. Well, look at that. Price rallied all the way up, right? Came all the way back down, bounced. We finally broke through, and remember I was saying look for the back, okay, of that trend line for the test, the retest, and that's where you want to enter, is on that retest. And if you look, you actually have the 200 with us now on the other side, and look at what price did. It fell, right? And then you could have caught a lot bigger move. So the best exercise is just kind of draw these trend lines all day long, right? Over and over and over. Look at this. Nice trend, right? We break out, come back to retest, enter here. Your stop loss would go right below here because remember from one of our early lessons of finding the trend, we have lower highs, lower lows, right? Well, we know that's a low. If we can enter as close to that low as possible, now we know our exit is going to literally be one tick below that low, right? So we're only risking a little bit, okay? While our profit potential is very high. Also, our probabilities of entering this trade are also very high. So that's how to trade the 1400 tick chart with the trend lines.